Well, hello there, and welcome to another epic podcast for you, the business owner slash community leader. My name is Chris Aird, and as the chief business strategist for With Purpose, as well as the owner of the company, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this podcast. Hey, listen, I've been figuring out over the past week, really what to share this week, and it was pretty alarming. Some things, and so I was really trying to figure out how do I want to present this, and I'm just going to actually just share the facts. It's really, really important that you listen up to this episode, and I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready? That's the big overarching question. Are you ready? Are you ready for what's coming? I was reading three different articles over the past week, and all three articles out of the many were pointing to something, and it's this: it's a turnover tsunami. That's right, you heard it, a turnover tsunami. There's a lot of things that working from home and what we went through in 2020 with COVID has created quite a few different changes. And people talk about going back to normal. Well, I don't know what normal looks like. I know what it used to be as far as what we did in life, how we operated business, how we took care of people around us, whether they were business relationships or personal relationships. But at the same time, do we really want to go back to that? I think that there's an opportunity here for us to change our mindset, change the way in which we do things, and figure it out as long as we go down this road. There's a lot of people figuring this out. That's why you're starting to see some changes. But at the same time, let me remind you that the spending habits of all of us as consumers have changed. It was heading in a particular direction. COVID accelerated that. And so the way in which we think and we process things now has changed. Is it for the good? I don't know. Is it for the bad? I don't know that either. But I do want you, as the business owner, as the leader in your business or in the community, to really recognize some things that are happening. And so I'm looking at this article here right now in the Phoenix Business Journal, and it's talking about experts as well as surveys say that a turnover tsunami is on the horizon as the pandemic uncertainty subsides. Here's what they're saying. According to the survey, 26% of workers plan to look for a job with a different employer once the threat of the pandemic decreases. We're talking a little bit more than a quarter of all people working are looking for something else to do, maybe a different place to work, a different occupation. And here's how it rings true for me. I was doing some consulting work for a client of ours just a couple of 3 months ago. And I actually had an employee on the call with me, said that that day that I was there with her was her last day. She had been thinking for quite a while, because of the pandemic, how she wanted to be as a mom, as a worker, she had a very special niche that she was involved with, and she was exhausted. And so you think about all of these different things that are taking place in someone's thinking, and they really start to go and figure out what it is that they truly want. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. Well, what she ultimately ended up doing was just putting in her notice, and actually put in less than a 2 week notice, which left the business a little bit stranded, but they were able to cope. But this just falls in line with what everybody else, not everybody, what the majority of people not only are thinking, but are doing. People are trying to figure things out. They're trying to figure out life. They're trying to say, you know what was important to me 2 years ago or a year ago, back in March or April, is no longer that top priority or that top importance to me. And so they're now understanding a little bit more about life. They're trying to figure out where they fit in all of this, where their family fits, what occupation they want to be in. And so there's a lot of companies. I hope yours is one of them. And if it hasn't been, I want to encourage you to reach out to somebody right now after this podcast and figure out and say, okay, what's our plan? Should this happen? Is it a matter if? Probably not. Is it a matter of when? Probably so. We just have things in life that are coming at us. Here's something else that I wanted to share with you. They said that it would take it would take just 15% of a pay raise for 49% of people to change their job. 15%. So you can do the math. Whatever salary figure you have in your head, add 15% of that, and people will leave for that amount. Now, at the same time, I'm looking at another article done by the Phoenix Business Journal, and this is what was alarming to me. There was a survey said or put out to, what do we have? 3,000 employees representing 45 different blind companies, not meaning blind. It was a random company, 3,000 employees. And the idea was, would you work from home continuously, or would you come into the office for a $30,000 raise? So work from home continuously or a $30,000 raise. Folks, listen, it wasn't even close. What do you think people wanted? Yeah, you're right. They wanted to work from home. They like the flexibility. It's not about the money. This is something that I have been sharing not only with our clients, but on this podcast now for a little more than a year. We have got to adapt the workplace culture to our employees, to our coworkers. Doesn't mean we change everything to keep trying to keep everybody in, because we all know you're not going to be able to please all the people all the time. But here's the thing. The values of people have shifted. The values of people have shifted. In fact, when I'm with a client, I'm bringing in what we call the Rokeach Value Survey, because I want to find out what the values of the people are on the team. And then I want everyone else to understand what those values are from each other so that they know how to work a little bit more in harmony with each other. This is really, really important. So hopefully you've seen this article. If not, I'm presenting it to you right now. It's 64% of people would rather work from home in this survey. 64% would rather work from home than take the extra cash. Things are changing. And it's going to take us as business owners, as community leaders, to really try to understand and be flexible, adapt with the changes that are taking place. This is going to be happening with all different types of employees. And when that shift takes place, you and I, as a consumer of any other company, our spending habits are further going to change. The way in which we spend money is going to change. We already recognize the amount of services that have gone up in price, either doubled or they're on their way 25 to 50% or 100% if they've doubled. So this is really, really important for us to pay attention to. In fact, I want to just point out a couple of things that I think that we can take a look at. Here's how we can handle this. Okay, so bear with me. Let me just throw out a couple of big names in this survey. Amazon, 64% of Amazon workers said they would prefer to work permanently from home. 64% of Amazon. 62% of Microsoft employees would rather work from home. 67 employees of Google, 67% of employees at Google would rather work from home. Salesforce employees, 76%. Things are going to be changing. Okay. So with that being said, I want to just kind of point out some things that I think that we can take a look at. And I want you to start thinking about your workplace. Not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I want you to start thinking about reimagining your workplace. What does it look like? What can you think about? Can you think 10 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, or maybe even next year? And some of us are probably thinking, I just got to get through today or this week. The problem with that is we're going to constantly be in a reactive or reactionary mode instead of being proactive. This is what is really essential to any type of business owner in any industry. If you can't have the foresight to think ahead and to imagine what is going to be taking place and how that's all going to work, it's really going to become a problem for you, because you're going to be constantly trying to catch up. So it's not just finding the right skills, but do you have the right people with the right skills? If you've heard this podcast more than 3 times, you will understand the statement by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. It's about getting the right people on the right bus, sitting in the right seat. This is my number one pillar in any type of business organization to work on, is your people have got to come first. This includes you. This includes your C-suite level. This includes your coworkers. It is absolutely imperative, because people set the culture. of your organization. It's about what you allow and what you don't allow. But it's also about making sure that you have the right people on the right bus sitting in the right seat. Then they've got to have the right skills to do it. Okay. So there's situation number one right there. Number two, when was the last time you took a look at benefits? Figuring out what people are really looking for. What is it that they need? Have you asked people what they're looking for? Have you asked people what they need? Have you asked them how they have shifted in their mindset, in their work ethic, and their behaviors to make sure that you are getting close to 100% out of your employees as possible? Have you spent the time to think about it? In fact, later on today, I'm going to be going to a very large client, a very large company, and talking with them and interviewing some of their employees that are just a little bit of struggling. They need to have a little bit of a shift in their mindset. It's not a counseling session or anything like that, but it's just thinking about them and putting them first. So when was the last time you did that? Find out what makes them tick. Find out how last year shaped them or changed them, or how we're doing things like this year. If they've got children, ask them how they're doing in school. What are some things that you can do as a company owner or a business owner or a community leader or a leader within the company to make sure that they're taken care of when it comes to benefits? When was the last time you looked into that? And then I would say this: I think that processes are going to change as well. And if you've been listening to this podcast anything more than 3 or 4, you'll know that's the second pillar of any business. So it's people first and then processes. They've got to be strategic, effective, and efficient, folks. They really do. And if your processes haven't changed in a little more than a year or less than that, depending on your industry, it might be time to set some time aside and to really, truly rethink about where you're headed and where you want to be and how those processes are going to get you there. It's all about the vision, right? It's all about how are you going to stay not only in competition, but stay in business, making sure that the service products or whatever that you're providing the consumer, your clients, are going to be there when their mindset changes. Are you able to think ahead for them? Are they giving you information? And that might be a process too. When was the last time you asked your clients what was going on, what they needed from you as a business owner, as an organization in their community? When was the last time you asked them? Now, there's another article that I was reading as well, and we know about the labor shortage. For whatever reason, I'm not going to get political on this, but we know that there's a labor shortage, that people are opening up and they're struggling trying to find people. They're actually offering cash incentives for people to sign on, and they're still not doing it. So things are changing. Now, at the same time, back in February, there was a survey done on employee engagement and recognition. This is, again, if you've not listened to my podcast, you'll hear it more than once on this. It's all about employee engagement. It's not about trust falls on a Friday afternoon or going up into the mountains and, doing hikes and all that. That's part of it. But what really gets down to the thick of it is, how are we treating their people? How are we treating our people? It really is. So back to the survey, 52% of workers are expected to look for a new job in 2021. 52% of people are expected to be looking for a new job this year. This is up. Pay attention. This is up 35% from both 2019 and 2020. People aren't happy, folks. In fact, I've shared numerous times, I'll say it again. I think it was in Forbes quite a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, that they said 80 some odd percent of people don't quit their jobs. They quit their employers. We have a problem within the culture of our organizations, and we can fix it. We can fix it, not only here at With Purpose, but you as an individual can help change the culture of the organization. So it's really interesting because the employees, I think the pendulum has shifted where the employees are going to have the leverage. If they're not getting what they want, they're just not going to show up, or they're not going to go work for you, or they're not going to be involved in community. So it's really important, not that we can give everybody everything, because that's not what I'm talking about here. But the people that you do have, be intentional with them, follow up with them, invest in them. There's a lot of different ways to invest in people. Find out how they communicate, find out how they connect. And these are just a couple of the services that I know have worked for us with our clients. There's a lot more. So I'd be happy to have an offline conversation with you, but it's really interesting. Here's another survey in the same article that a New York-based management consulting firm, McKinsey and Company, which I follow, found that 52% of workers would prefer a hybrid setup in post-COVID-19 world. 52, more than half of employees would prefer some sort of hybrid system. That means going to work and working from home. Going to work, working. This has changed. COVID has accelerated this. We've been talking about this for a few years now, and so it's now here. This is up 30% before COVID-19. So what do we do about this? Well, I think it's got to be about that you're flexible. It really is. It's got to be about making sure that you're able as a company, if you can, to shift your thinking, to shift your processes as you meet your people's concerns, needs, wants, desires, whatever the case might be. And again, please don't hear that I'm saying you got to give everybody everything. You don't. But there's got to be a middle ground, right? There's got to be some compromise that takes place. And I think secondly, it's about it's about connecting people together. That's what helps make up your culture of your organization. All right. I hope you're still listening, because your culture of your organization, people get bent out of shape. They enjoy it. That's why we have, top X amount of companies to work for, because people recognize when they do those surveys that there is importance in the place that they work, the culture that they work. And really, to boil it down, and there's so much more to this, it really is about what you allow and what you don't allow to happen. Are you following through with the policies and the procedures, the boundaries or parameters that you've set within the workplace? Are you able to allow, should their job warrant it, do you need everybody coming into the building 100%? Could there be an hybrid option, right? So there's a lot more that we can talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts on, if you want to hear more about organizational culture and all that. And then I think it boils down, again, we're back to people. So people and processes, but we're back to people when we talk about connecting people to the culture and making sure that the culture is beneficial for all people, right? The majority of all people. But I think it's also about trust. I think it's about trust. If you don't have trust, you don't have anything. If people can't trust you, they may not agree with you, but if they can trust you, you can still have a great working relationship, because they know that you are not going to flip your thought process from yes to no, or no to yes, or it's always going to be maybe. People need to understand and learn that they can trust you. So this is way that the communication opens up. It's when we have done this with people, we have literally opened up the lines of communication and taken the last step further and connecting people, not just C-suite level to employee, or leaders to managers, or all across the board, or whatever the case might be. But we're talking also connecting with your clientele, your customer base. In fact, about a year and a half ago, we did some things with a client that's pretty large in our area, and we were able to increase sales because we were able to teach the salespeople how to communicate and then connect with their clients. It wasn't just a sales job. You're building relationships, and we know that, but to literally enforce that is a different story. Not just enforce it, but apply it. And we were able to help transition their role, and sales went up by 30-40% quarter over quarter. That's how powerful it is. So who doesn't want more sales in their business, right? So I'll wrap it up. I'm going to just kind of put this all together. It really is about people, knowing your people, allowing your people to trust you, you trusting them, but it is about processes. And there's a turnover tsunami coming, they say. And people are just not happy. They've had to rethink things. COVID has shed a little light on the way that they live life, the way that they interact with people, the way that they spend money. And there's so much more to this. But the businesses are going to need to adjust because of what's going to be happening. Hopefully it's not too late in your business. I don't ever think it is. There's always room for improvement, right? There's always room for change. So at the same time, I just would love for you to leave some thoughts on our page. You can email me at chrisheriot.withpurposellc.com, or you can call me. My phone number is on the website, but would really like to hear from you guys. And if you need any assistance, you got to reach out for it. Not everybody has all the answers, but together, collectively, we can come up with a great problem-solving solutions for your business to make sure not only is it where it needs to be, but that it's constantly growing and elevating, that you're tapping into untapped potential, not just for your business, but for your people, your clients, your consumers, and your community. My name is Chris Aird, and it's a privilege to serve you through this podcast, as well as serve our community and our clients around this great country of ours. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned. We'll have another episode next week. It's been great to host you. And as I always say, live life with purpose.